friends. So for anyone who joined me for part 1 of the Anne inspired video series here, this is part 2. I'm trying to make 2 shorter videos. So for my people who don't have as much time, they still have like a 10-15 minute video they can do in the morning, at night, etc. So let's get going. You're standing up nice and tall for this one in what's called Tadasana or mountain pose, right? Try to find the feet really rooting down, and the more the feet root down, then that allows the crown of the head to lift up. And from that place, close the eyes for just a moment and just do a quick body scan. But specifically, since we were talking about it being a lot in the neck, check into your neck, check into your upper back and your shoulders, check into that mid-back, scanning down a little lower until you come all the way down to that low back, that juncture, right, where the low back and the sacrum meet, and that's usually a very tender spot for many, many folks. 80% of people have had, will have, or currently have low back pain. Whoa, that's crazy. 80% of human beings. What? And go ahead and open those eyes. So now you kind of know your blueprint, we'll call it, right, or your test strip. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into the rib cage, and it'll also start to get into that upper back and the neck in a little bit. So you're just going to let the right fingertips just kind of glide down the right leg. Don't worry about how far. Get over that stuff, right? It's really just close your eyes if that's what it takes to really feel, you know, a nice, gentle stretch. We're not going crazy. It's not super sensational. Right? And right fingertips down. And for those of us who have flexibility and we're looking for that sensation, you tend to go to that place where we overstretch. And that ain't good either, right? Then our ligaments and our tendons get all stretched out. Okay, so now we're going to add a little neck action, assuming it's okay with your neck. This time when you turn, you're going to turn the chin down towards the right shoulder as you glide in. And coming back up. And that's the new motion, right? Everything turns forward, but then you turn the head in as you glide down. So it's an add-on, coming up and turning back forward. One more time. And this time, if it feels okay, you're going to stay. You could keep moving on the breath if that's better. Now, staying in, you're going to take your left fingertips, the opposite fingertips, and you're going to reach them down so the shoulder blade depresses, and it might amplify that stretch in the neck or the shoulder area. Take another inhale. With the exhale, release the pressure of the left fingers, and inhale, bring the body back up nice and gently. Just that gentle on the other side. Left fingertips are just going to slide down the leg and back up. Nice, gentle, what's called a lateral stretch for the spine and the side body. Coming back up, getting into the rib basket, right? We're starting to stretch through those intercostal muscles. And now maybe adding in that head turn. So you would turn your head to the left. And come back up. We got 2 more of those. We'll hold the third if that's appropriate in your body. But again, it might feel better for you to keep moving on the breath. And if that's the case, just keep moving on the breath. Otherwise, this next time when you come in, you're going to pause, right? Take your right fingertips and reach your right fingertips down. Keep that shoulder nice and broad, the right shoulder and chest. And just see if that doesn't get you a little extra action in the right side of the neck, upper back area, shoulder. Inhale, bring that all the way back up. I'm going to look at my notes real quick so I remember what this sequence is. So next we're going to go into a forward fold. So let's start it by interlacing our hands behind our back. Now if this isn't available, we got belts and straps and the like, yeah? So with the interlace, the elbows start bent. Why? Because then there's a softness around the shoulders and we can find more in the shoulders, right? So now you're going to go ahead and you're going to see if you can let those shoulder heads roll back a little bit. And if you're working with a shoulder injury, you don't go to the point of pain, right? You just go to the point where you're starting to feel a stretch that feels healthy and not like it's going to cause inflammation or irritation. And then from that place, you might start to reach those knuckles down a little bit. I've been talking about how I find more in my chest and my upper back when I keep a little bend in my elbows. And I also am a hyperextender, so I have to be really careful that I don't hyperextend. So now breathing into the chest, right? Also, breathing into that area between the shoulder blades. Yes, that's coming together a little bit, but can you still find a spaciousness? And for some of my friends, this feels like plenty. For some of my friends, we're going to bring it into a forward fold, right? So bend the knees, because it's not about the legs right now. And then fold in, I don't know, maybe about halfway if even. But then your shoulders probably drop down. So can you reach those shoulder heads? Lift them back up. It helps me to lift my elbows towards the ceiling as well, right? And then maybe you start to reach those knuckles away from the sacrum and more up towards the sky, whatever that is in your body. And some of my friends, you have the capacity in your muscular body to fold in a little more and still keep the lift of the chest. But don't give up and go into a forward roll with the spine just to try to get deeper. That's a quote. I have air quotes around that, deeper into the pose, right? Soften the neck. Let the head hang if that's okay. Take one more breath, inhale, and then bring the hands down. And you're going to come onto your shins and reach the chest forward. Find that same spaciousness. And then keep the knees really bent and fold back in. Now you're going to bring your hands around to your gastrocnemius and the soleus, right? So you're going to grab onto the back of your calves is another way to say that. That's not so fancy. And as you pull into your calves, you're going to try to keep your ribs and your thighs, whatever distance they are. You might not be laying on them like I am, and that's okay. Wherever you are, try to keep that distance the same. Even as you pull in, you're going to push the heels down and start to reach the buttocks up, aka slowly start to straighten the legs until you feel the hamstrings start to feel stretched. I like to remind people that if you just shove into a stretch, there is a reaction with inhibitor cells in your muscle that doesn't allow the muscles to stretch because the brain gets a little bit nervous, the body does, that you're going to overstretch or hurt yourself, right? So to avoid this whole process of trying to let the tendon know the brain lets the brain know it's okay, yada, 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 right? Can you just go in nice and softly, go into that first edge, take a couple of breaths, and after you've been there, maybe the muscle starts to receive the stretch and you can go in a little bit further and take a couple of breaths, etc., right? And then put your hands on your shins and reach the chest forward. Keep that low belly toned in. Hands on the hips, elbows up, and come all the way up to standing. Now we're going to come down and we're going to do one more stretch before we come onto our backs. And this one is called Janu Shirsasana, head of knee pose. I don't care for the name at all because it implies that people are going to lay down on their leg, and most people cannot do that, nor should they try. And also, you know, we get really crazy sometimes with this wide angle, and we think we have to look like we're in Cirque du Soleil. But really, actually, if you look at some of the teachings by particular teachers, they say a 90-degree angle. It's not very wide, right? And it's still going to get you some inner groin, and actually where we're going is going to be in the low back. So don't go too wide is my whole point with that. You're going to go ahead, you're going to bring the right heel towards the pubic bone, right? So we're doing a slightly different approach today. You're going to put one hand on either side of the leg and then see if you can get your abdomen to turn towards that left leg, that straight leg. And then you're going to start to stretch out over that a little bit. Now pause before you get too far in there. I'm going to have you try to sink the right buttocks bone down again, but then reach the right arm forward and go up, right? So you have that diagonal line that we sometimes work with in child's pose, downward dogs, things like that. And now hopefully we're starting to stretch and lengthen out of there. Now you might stay here, or you might turn the belly towards that left groin as you cross the arm over, right? And then you can kind of leverage against the leg. You can kind of push and glide down the leg to try to pull out of that back body. But if something got lost along the way and all you feel is hamstring, bend the knee, right, or something, you might just stay up and lengthen out from that place. They're both really beautiful variations. Variety is the spice of life, people. And from a neuroplastic way, if you want to have neuroplasticity, variety, variations. If you do the same thing every day all the way at the same time, that's where we start to get rigidity in the brain. Plaque builds up, etc. Inhale, reach the chest forward and come on up. Go ahead and let that leg come on out again, not very wide. Bringing the left heel in. You're going to put one hand on either side. Inhale, lengthen, turning towards the right thigh. right? Abdomen turning lightly. And then as you fold over, really sink that left buttocks bone down and back. That's your opposition, two things in opposite directions, right? Now reach that left arm forward and away initially and try to find that stretch in that lower left back area. Bend the right knee if it's all hamstring, right? And then maybe you cross over and you kind of pull out, and I turn my belly towards that thigh as I come down in. And whole time I'm trying to access my lower left back. I like to say it's around the corner from my love handle, right? And then inhale, reach that chest forward and come on up. Let's let those legs come on out. Bring the legs together. I said only one more, but I lied. I'm going to add one more in. Let's just do hamstrings one more time. For a lot of my friends with low backs, those hamstrings can be part of that equation, right? But we're not going to round. We're just going to lengthen. So you're going to kind of almost like you're pulling back on your mat, attraction, to try to pull that low back in. You can always have the knees a little bit bent if that helps your pelvis figure this out, right? But my legs are straight, my legs are working, and my feet are too. One more breath, and come on up. Now we're going to come into seated or kneeling rather than lying down. And looking for that same spine. And although we're not standing, we're back to our basic blueprint of the spine anyway. If you prefer to stand, please stand, right? Otherwise, close the eyes. And let the body be resting as much as it can, but also that upright posture. And check into your neck, your upper back, middle back, scanning all the way down to the low back and the sacrum. Namaste, friends. So again, those are two videos. These are two videos, this being the second, that you might play with, just kind of intermingling. I'm not saying things very well today, but you know, you could always do one on one day, one on another. For my friends who don't have as much time, hopefully y'all have about 15 minutes you can give yourself. Your body will appreciate you and thank you for it.